I know that every once in a while, everybody wants to get on their phone and just travel on their own. Now, today, our topic is solo ride. We need to know how to prepare for it, what to look out for, and everything regarding solo ride. Today, we have a speaker. We have our speaker today. He started riding in his early teens, right? And he's been hooked ever since on the sheer freedom that you can only get from riding on a motorcycle. He has been exposed to the ups and downs of using a motorcycle and traveling alone. Our speaker today is an engineer by profession, even though I think he's a retired one now, but he's an engineer. He has done group rides and solo rides across Africa, West and Central Africa, and Europe. He has done trips lasting from a few days to more than a month with no break. He has ridden solo to most states of Nigeria. He has ridden solo to Mali and from Port Harcourt to Austria. At a point in his life, for 18 years at a stretch, he had only motorbikes as a means of self-transportation. And he learned a lot about riding inside cities and across countries from that. He belongs to the camp who believe that we control what happens to us during our riding and can plan ahead to have an advantage and ensure favorable outcomes. These days, he takes minibuses on weekends for entertainment and learning, and he's currently taking a course in epistemology. I know Nengi will ask me what is epistemology. That's the theory of knowledge.
Of all people.
Our speaker today was once the president of the defunct ANMC, which is Association of Nigerian Motorcycle Clubs. He is known in the biking community as Master. By the time he is done talking, everybody will appreciate why he is called Master in the biking circle. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us welcome Inyang Effiong to the forum. Mr. Inyang, you're welcome to this forum today.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the warm introduction and the bit about epistemology.
All right. As you know, today we're talking about solo rides, and everybody here one time or the other must have done a solo ride, even if it's from maybe if you're in Lagos, from mainland to the island, it's a solo ride, right? Now, what is a solo motorcycle trip by your own definition, and who is it for? Mr. Inyang, please.
Okay, so from my perspective, a solo motorcycle trip is any trip that involves a single motorcycle. So only one motorcycle is involved. But when we reviewed it before, we used to say a solo motorcycle trip is a trip involving one person. But I think the definition of having one motorcycle might serve us better here, because you might be going with a pillion, you might pick people along the way. So you tell everybody that you're riding solo, and when you have a problem, you say, so two of us are stranded, so you get confusing. So what we focus on is the single motorcycle trip. That is a solo ride, and that's the definition that we are sticking to for the duration of this discussion.
Okay, so who exactly is it for? Who can embark on this solo ride?
All right, so when we talk about solo riding, one of the things that we looked at is to say, what is solo riding? You know, I gave a very high level definition when we started, saying it's involving a single motorcycle. But let's take a step back and say, what do you really mean when you say a solo motorcycle? So a solo motorcycle ride is any trip that you are undertaking alone on your motorcycle. Forget about the part that I mentioned, a pillion, which can last from 30 minutes. It can last for 5 minutes because you are going around the corner, to a multi-year adventure. So that is solo. The critical part why we moved it out of just saying a motorcycle ride and call it a solo motorcycle ride is that on a solo ride, you are solely responsible for all the things that happen around the ride. There's nobody else that will be able to help you when you are riding or spot things and all the other things like that. So to answer your question, who can, help out in, who can take a to allow you to do it or not.
Okay. Now, can you just take us through the planning stage of a motorcycle trip? It's not just good enough to say, I want to travel. You just jump on your bike and you go. There must be some things you need to do before you embark on that trip. So take us through the planning stage of a motorcycle trip.
All right. So I'm going to handle that. But host, can you pin my video, please? As we agreed before we started. I know we've started fully now, so I need to show some things if you can pin my video. Demola. So before you even start your solo ride, and again, I'm covering everything from the beginning, from your in-town trips to going to Zamfara from Lagos or from Kaduna to doing West Africa, going to Central Africa, going to Europe, or doing a ride around the world trip. Is there has to be a central reason. What is the purpose? Why are you traveling? So once you can answer that question, a lot of other things will fall in place, and it will now make the planning easier. So the purpose of your trip is very important. So I can do a solo ride to the airport. My purpose is to go and pick up a parcel. So that sounds like a very minor trip, but that will now tell me that because I'm picking up a parcel, I need to carry my waterproof backpack rather than that other fancy backpack that I just bought. So when you have the purpose, the planning now comes. So when you now have your purpose, you now check things like, what is the destination of the trip? You'll be very surprised that people go on trips without knowing the destination. I mean, I've been on group rides where we get to the place and we're drinking in the evening or we're partying, and somebody now said, oh boy, what is actually happening around this place? So what thing we can't do? You can afford to do that on a group ride. You can just join people on a group ride. But when you are now riding solo, it means you should know where you are going. I mean, it sounds common. The second part of that is, or the third part, because we started with purpose, is that what is the distance that you are traveling? So how long is your trip? What is the distance in terms of kilometers? When you have sorted that out, there's another one that I give people and they wonder, oh, but you've already talked about distance. What is the time that is going to take you to do that trip? So you have a distance. I'm going to go to Mali. I'm going to Bamako. There's a festival in Bamako that I want to attend. That is the purpose of my trip. And it's going to take me 1 week to go and 1 week to come back. So you've answered all the questions. You have a purpose. You have a reason. You have the distance. And then you have the time that you need to be able to do the trip. So it's when you do these things that you can now start planning. So people come to me and say, oh, they want to go to the Congo. They want to plan. I say, no, take a break. How long is it going to take you? What is the distance? If you don't have all these things, you're not planning anything. There's nothing to plan. So you should have those in the plan. When you've now finished that, you now do the last part, which I call, what type of trip are you embarking on? And as we go along, we will look into a lot of those things. So basically, anybody that rides can do a solo motorcycle ride.
Okay. All right. Ms. Inyang, what is the difference in the maintenance items for a solo versus group rider? You know, yesterday we were taking through group rides and what you need to do to prepare for it. Today, if you're riding alone, what kind of maintenance should you have? What kind of maintenance should you carry out on your bike, since you know you'll be alone? What kind of tools do you have? Must you have? Not the one you depend and say, oh, my riding partner will probably have this spanner, so I don't need to carry it. So what kind of maintenance items do we need for a solo ride?
All right. So if you are doing a solo ride inside the town or a short duration solo ride, you can skimp on some of these things. You know, you can depend on, oh, you pack your bike and put it in the bus, or you call somebody. When you are doing a long solo ride, when you start talking about going for the Gombe Converge alone, when you start talking about going to Ilela for a festival or going to West Africa or even leaving Africa, you now have to start from the basis that you shouldn't jump on a bike that you don't know about and then go on a solo ride. You're in trouble. So you now select the maintenance item based on the knowledge of your bike. So it's not a fixed maintenance ride. So you have to know your bike and what do you need to do on your bike. So for example, I'll give you an instance. Another thing is you can use any type of bike for a solo trip and for long distance trips. I'm not in that group that says you must use an off-road bike when you are going off-road, or you must use a trail bike or one of those touring bikes. You can use a sports bike and go to Indonesia from Nigeria and it will serve you well. So if you are riding a Ducati, for instance, and it's a single swing arm, there is a critical tool that you must carry. That is the tool that will loosen your rear wheel, because you're not going to get that on the side of the road. So when you want to do a slow ride, the maintenance requirements are, what are the critical things that I need for this bike, that this bike needs? I need to change these things on the road. And then you now distill it down to the pure essence of all those critical things that you must have. So of course you must have your basic spanners, you must have the things to probably change a plug, you must have the bolt that goes under your oil sump to be able to change it. And when I talk about especially that oil sump, people tell me why. I said almost every roadside mechanic around the world or in Africa here is going to have a one tool. So you don't want that one tool to be used to change your oil, because I mean that's one part that you won't be able to change easily. So when you know your bike and you know those critical things, you will now be able to pick the exact tools that you do.
Okay. All right. Now, on solo rides, even on group rides, a lot of people wear tags, branded ICE, in case of emergency tags. What are they for, and do they actually work?
All right, so that's a subject of much debate. I mean, I have one. I always wear a tag. I have one on my phone where if you try to unlock the phone and then you press some buttons, it will tell you in case of emergency, contact so and so person. But for a solo rider, you have to remember that you are all geared up, you are all buttoned up, and then you fall down in a village. How many people will be able to open your ICE tag and look for your blood group? So the best thing is have it, but the efficacy is, you are not sure that it's going to work. It's good to have, but the most critical thing is to have your first aid items where people can easily see it and avoid having a problem in the first place. So that's another thing that I tell people. Don't carry all those things, but don't need them. So your mind frame should be, I don't want to get into a situation where people have to call somebody at home for this. So ride carefully, take all the something, and then have your eyes as the last 5% in case people need to contact your relations and get information to them.
Right. Ian, you've been on so many trips, so many solo trips, both group and solo. What should one expect during a solo trip?
Great.
Some people have run into lions on the way and all that. What exactly should we expect on a solo trip?
Okay, so
give us from your wealth of experience. You know, you've been to Austria and all that. What should we expect if you're going on a solo trip?
So before you start the solo trip, you do all the nice planning. I'm going to get to Burkina Faso in 3 days. I'm going to get to Mali. I'm going to stop and survey this. When I get to Rome, I'm going to go to the Colosseum. That is your basic plan. You now take a step back and then do what I call the contingency plan. What happens if I fall down? People don't like to talk about that one, but what happens if I fall down? Because if you're doing more than 5 days, you're going to get tired, your bike might have a problem, and you fall down. So what happens with it? How do I repair my bike? Those things that I don't know how to do myself, how will I fix it when it happens? So thinking about it puts you in the frame of mind that when those things happen, not the shock. What will I do if I don't get visa on arrival? Because, you know, like now you can enter most of East Africa visa on arrival. You now get to the border and they tell you that visa for arrival is for people coming by. What are you going to do? So you have to think of that. Don't push it to the back of your mind. I got to Mauritania. I was told by the Mauritanian embassy in Nigeria that I'll get a visa at the border. So I got there at 4 p.m. I've done all my plans where I will sleep. And the guy just laughed, threw my passport at me and said, you can go back to get a visa. I said, the embassy said I can get a visa. And their head turns to me and he was speaking in another language, but I understood the basis of what he was saying because later on somebody confirmed me that go and call the ambassador to come and stamp your visa here at the border, since that's what he told you. So I had to do another 450 kilometers in the night. Sorry, don't do night riding during solo ride. So don't listen to this part, but I had to ride back to the capital. So it's so you think of the things that may go wrong ahead, because that puts you in the frame of mind that you will not start crying when they actually during your trip. Please, please, please don't bring out your phone and start calling all your friends that have more experience than you. Oh boy, I'm in this place. Oh, waiting, we go do. What do I do? No, 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 no. That is the worst possible thing that you can do. If you have a challenge, when you have a problem during a ride, the first thing you should do is to ask yourself, what are the possible solutions by yourself? It doesn't take more than a minute. The next thing is to know where you are. And again, this sounds very trite, but I have been on trips where when I have a problem, I don't know where I am. I know I left Lokoja about 1 hour ago. I've been riding. Am I closer to Abuja than to Lokoja? What is the nearest town? So find this little information and then look at what really is the problem. You know, you can take pictures and everything. Can I solve it? Can people around me solve it? Is when you've done this that you start calling people from outside to ask, what can I do? Because you get a lot of calls from people who tell you that, oh, I have a flat tire. Where are you? Let me check. Oh boy, come close to me. Where am I? You know, that means you did not even do the basics. Because by the time you do the basics, the solution might have come to you. So you don't need to call any other person to find out what else to do. So check yourself first and find out what you can do before you start. I'm not saying you shouldn't call others, but what can you do? And do you have enough and accurate information when you finally call people either by chat or by other means? That is it, John.
Okay, now when people are traveling, when you're traveling, definitely you have to carry luggage. We know some GS people, they are luggage carriers, you know, they have this, their bikes are more like panniers and then a little bike in between, you know. What exactly do you have to carry when you're on a solo ride? And then again, especially, what kind of dressing do you expect? Does it depend on where you're going, or what? What kind of luggage do you have? And give us tips on dressing when you're doing solo ride.
Okay. All right. So, John, can you see is my video on the main screen now?
I can see your video. Yes, somebody on a bike.
Is it on the main screen?
Jackson
no, it's still
will be
in
able
the
to
small
answer
one.
that. Jackson, why?
We are seeing it.
Right? Okay, you're seeing it. Okay. So, yeah. You know, like I was talking that you can use any bike for traveling.
I can't see anything. Okay, now I can see.
Okay. You didn't pay your MTN subscription on time. That's why it came slowly. So the main thing is you have to use the right luggage for the right bike and for the right occasion. So this is a 3-day trip and everything got into that 15 liters, including 2 change of underwears. Let me not go into too much detail about the underwear, a change of socks in case it rained, and all the things that are needed for 3 days was in this backpack. And I've also done trips where is the opposite, where you load your bike to the heavens. So this is at Wahala. We're leaving Wahala here, so no Wahala. So I had my sleeping bag, I had my cooking utensils, I had tools in that yellow part. So this left part was all tools, engine oil, and all sorts. You have your tank bag that contains all the things you need. So again, you have to pack according to the purpose of your trip. Don't pack the way you've been packing on a group, right? Because you are going to be the one that will push this bike when you fall down or lift it up. So in this case, I even had spare fuel. It's not showing there, but okay. This last thing at the top here, this black stuff is actually a 15-liter water container so that I'm going to be able to survive in the desert, because I was going to do some sand riding that I'll be alone, like 120 kilometers and that. All right. So pack according to your bike. What is the capacity of your bike to pack? What is your own capacity to pack? And when you're packing, ask yourself, if something happens, can I push all this? Can I leave all this luggage behind? Or what am I going to do? So don't just pack because your bike is going to work all the time. Things will go wrong, and a lot of these things will become liability. So what I tell people, pack as slim as you like and as much as you like, depending on the situation. There is no one way. It depends on what you are doing. So last thing I'm going to show you, I was doing, I did about 30 kilometers of this type of stuff, and I was going to spend 3 days, and that's all the luggage I had. So I even kept the water outside, but everything here is waterproof, and is waterproof to the level that if I fall into the stream ahead and I can bring this bike out in 5 minutes, water is not going to get into my luggage. So again, what is the purpose of your trip and what type of trip is it going to be? That will really, really help you when you are packing. Yes, Jan.
What about the tips on dressing? Does the weather determine how you dress? Rainy season, dry season, winter?
Oh, winter, summer, and all that. So I had there were some good questions in the previous episodes, and I'm going to use that to answer. So somebody was asking about Gore-Tex. So if I'm doing a local trip, I'm not going to leave Nigeria, I'll wear something that is meant for the warm weather, you know. If I'm riding in the rainy season and it's a town to town without stopping in between, and I'm going on business, I'm going to wear something that is Gore-Tex or the equivalent. I will take the discomfort because when I arrive at the destination, I have to change in 10 minutes and I need to be dry. I'll probably change in the guard's room into something else. I don't want to be soggy. So I did this trip for 32 days and this is what I wore. So this is waterproof, breathable. I had some other things on top. I had waterproof boots and they did their job. So what weather zones are you going to go through? Do you expect rain? Is it going to be sunny? If you wear nets, okay, I think I'll just call it net. If you wear those clothes that are perforated and the fabric one, some of them can actually be dangerous because you can get too cold if you are riding at night or you are riding too fast. So it will serve you well when you're in a humid area like Nigeria. If you wear them in Burkina Faso, you might lose so much water and you're not drinking enough to replace it. So again, you need to do a lot of this research and, you know, follow. And the research doesn't stop at just asking people questions and other things. So John, I'm going to jump quickly out of dressing to where you get your information. So I've got a couple of books here. So I have this one here, Sahara. I have so many books on biking. You can check on the internet and they'll give information. But remember one thing, people don't tell you everything. There are some things that people hold back. You know, we have ego, and most of the people writing these books and putting this information online, they are men. They won't tell you the part that a truck had to carry them across the sand. They'll just tell you that the sand was deep. Then you now go there and you want to do the same thing, you will sink, you will not pass. Meanwhile, everybody has passed. So when I was reading these books, I wanted to go to Libya. I wanted to go through Algeria once before the war in Libya started. And I noticed that for a stretch of 500 kilometers, no motorcyclists actually said how they did it. So I started reaching out to them privately and everything. It was one British man that told me, yeah, and he said it verbally, we put our bikes on the back of the trucks that are crossing. Who is going to do that place with all that problem there? I have not seen all the people that write in the books. They will talk about Algeria. And then the next thing they're talking about is Chad. And I kept wondering what is happening in between. Do your research and add to all the other research. So don't swallow these things hook, line, and sinker, including the one I'm telling you. Check some of the things yourself. Yes, John.
Okay. Is there another item that we need to add when we're doing solo rides? Any other item that we may have forgotten?
Okay, so yes, you know, we mentioned pillion at the beginning. So when once pillions come in, the situation becomes very complicated. So I had to go to school, pick this young lady up for an appointment in Lagos. That was 300 kilometers going, then 300 kilometers back, and then go. And by the time we were getting to Ibadan, I noticed that nobody was touching me or doing anything. I said, okay, you are below the age for caffeine, but we had to stop at Mobile and finish this Red Bull. I know I told you you can't take Red Bull till you are XX age. Drink it now. Your pillion is bored. Your pillion is not going through everything that you are going through. So you need to check on your pillion and everything. When I'm doing a long trip, I eat in the night. So I start in the morning. I always start fasted, so no breakfast. and then I grab something at lunch, which can be coffee, snacks, or rush some rice if I see rice without pepper, and then I do my eating in the evening. Your pillar might be somebody that if they don't eat in the morning, they cannot function. They will fall off the bike and you are responsible. So you now have to modify a lot of the things you do when you have a pillion. So we still call it the solo trip, but now what you're happening is that you are responsible for more than yourself. You have to adjust to that person.
Yes, because I was going to ask you that, is riding with a pillion still considered a solo trip, since you're the only one actually doing the riding? The pillion is just sitting at the back. Will that still be considered a solo trip?
Yes and no. So yes, in terms of you are responsible, but you now have to start considering another person. You have to start thinking, what does the person want? If this person is bored, this person is not, and I will advise that if it's a long trip, you should have some form of communication. Don't talk too much, but check on the pillion. Once after 50 kilometers, people just slip off and somebody will just fall off and then the story will change. So if you bring a pillion, it's more complicated than just talking about a solo trip. And I think we'll handle it in a different manner, but I just wanted to bring up that pillion part, that the solo trips that we're talking about sometimes can involve passive. Yes, it will involve somebody that is passive. Yes.
Okay, so I think we can entertain some questions at this point so that you just don't keep on talking and talking. Mr. Tony, your hands are raised. Would you like to ask a question? Please unmute yourself and ask your question, Tony.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma. Thank you very much, sir. Mine is like, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Okay, mine is a suggestion. Now, I've observed mostly when people go on solo rides, depending on the kind of gear they are putting on. Now, jacket most especially, you find some people putting on black. The gear is black, the pants is black, the jacket is black. Most times the bikes is black. Now, when I drive my car on the road, I discover when I see such people, I say, this is dangerous. There's need. I will advise that for some people get reflective jacket, especially if you are traveling as a group. If it's a group ride, it's easy for other motorists to, get to other road users to get to see you, see the bikes. There are so many bikes, they must start with this of it. But as a solo rider, if you are not using reflective jacket and your pants, your jacket is black, your bike is black, man, there is danger there. That's just my, try and get a reflective jacket at least to just make yourself visible. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Inan, what do you have to say to that?
Yes, you should get a reflective jacket. You should be as visible as possible, but remember that all that visibility, you still have to ride carefully. So the example somebody gave me was that you will be reflective, you have flashers on your body. Remember that cars go and hit other cars that are much, much bigger and they're painted white. So if they can hit another car and say they didn't see the car, you are a solo person. So wear all that stuff and also do what he has said, which is make sure that you can be seen. So I think what he's talking about is something like this. So you're wearing this and then you have a reflective vest on the top. I love black and black. So when I'm doing trips that I need to be a little bit more visible, I'll put this on top. And then this black and black for BMW and I guess some other brand, this part that is white shines so much when light hits it, the one behind. So they're actually brighter. They have inserts that are brighter than pale colored clothes. So remember your clothes, most of them will absorb light in the night. That is what I have to say.
Okay. Mr. Folusha Ajayi, please quickly, because we'll soon run out of time. Ask your question, unmute yourself, and go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. Can you give us 3 do not do on a long trip? The 3 things that you should not do on a long trip.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually wrote down your questions. So I'm happy you even repeated it. So number 1, do not force the pace. So you are going to do 200 kilometers, you got to a place, and then you want to go to the next place that you didn't plan for and you don't know the condition, unless you've passed that place before, maybe follow the original plan. Number two is going to contradict that first one totally, but you are an adult, so you can do the two. When you're on a solo ride, be flexible. Do not follow things. This is what you said when you were in Lagos. You must follow it exactly. You have to be flexible. So to now counter the first thing I said, when I start a ride, I'll tell myself, I'm going to do 500 kilometers a day. I'm going to do 400 kilometers. I'm going to do 600 kilometers. After the first 5 days, I will adjust my riding time to accommodate what I'm actually experiencing. So number one is don't force the pace. Don't change things very rapidly. Number two is that change when is needed. Number three is always ask yourself the question, what am I going to do today? Don't use the very big plan. So when you're on especially for very long trips, do not use that big homogeneous plan. Start drilling down to, today I'm going from A to B, what will I do? Don't say, oh, today I just continue what I was doing. So don't use a big picture. When you are now riding, use the small picture. So I hope that answered your question in a roundabout kind of way.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
does
so
any
while the
other
next person is coming up, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, just go ahead and say what you have to say.
Okay, so somebody asked from Nigeria to Mali, the number of gear you should wear. Just carry one gear. That's why you have to carry your most versatile gear. Just carry one gear. And so what I do is that every night when I'm traveling, so under, I wear wicking stuff under my stuff, and every single night. That's why I love solo rides. I wash everything that was under me, except the cycling shorts, which I wash like every 2 or 3 days. So as I hit the hotel, I'm washing everything, putting it out. And the beauty is when once you leave Nigeria, things just dry, or you put your AC on maximum and it will dry your stuff. So I don't carry more than one riding kit, and they will survive a fall. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Arnold, Big Arnold, you have a question? Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Okay,
good
sorry,
evening.
Jo, Big Arnold, sorry, Jo. So there are questions in the chat forum as well.
Yes, I'm looking at
so
them.
you might need to. Okay, cool,
Yes,
cool.
I'm
Sorry,
looking
Big
at
Arnold, you can go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Joanne and the Master Ian. Good evening. My question is, what are the don'ts if you are doing a solo transborder trip using West Africa? For example, you want to do a West Africa tour. What are the errors to watch out for at the borders?
Okay, so give enough time for the crossing. Our brothers that do Nigeria to Accra, they find out the hardware that the fact that Lagos to Accra is less than Lagos to Port Harcourt is on paper. In reality, it is much, much tougher than that. So budget time for the border based on what people have told you and add 2 more hours. Do not be insulting at the borders, because I've traveled with people that I wish I never traveled with when I get to the border. And don't hand over your documents to the person who is fixing things for you. If that is the only set of documents you have, especially your passport, you might not see it again. So don't hand over your original documents unless you see the official. Do not insult. I didn't say do not argue. Nigerians, because majority of the people on this chat will be, on this group will be Nigerian. We can't help but argue, but don't be insultive. And don't think you will cross the border in 1 hour or 2 hours, no matter where they send you to. When they tell you to go and take that bush border, that might be the day that the minister says they should check out all those borders. Budget enough time. Do not budget too little time. And borders are fantastic. But once, if you look at it as an adventure, that the crossing itself is something you should learn from. The crossing tells you why the countries that have such border do not develop. So when you get to a country and you experience something at the border, you can tell how developed the country is. So sometimes you turn these things into a learning experience rather than something that will annoy you. It's very difficult to do, but at the end, you'll be able to survive.
Okay, somebody has a question that says, what are the 3 things you should not do when doing solo rides?
Okay, I think we've answered that already. That was Felicia.
Okay, that's been answered. Okay, Holmes, you have a question. Please just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Joanne. Good evening, Mr. Yang. It's been ages.
Good evening.
See you. How are you It's been a long time. I want to ask, how often, if you are going for a long journey, let's say a 400, 500 kilometer journey, right? Is there like a recommended number of rest stops you need to do, you know, or you, or depends on your body or what? And then I am known to take pictures and stop a lot and take pictures and enjoy my ride. Will you advise that to be the case if you are going on a journey sightseeing or going to your destination?
Okay, so how many stops if you're doing a 500-kilometer trip and then
a long journey,
stopping to take pictures? Is that a long trip? So first one is, why do you need to stop? So for me, if I'm going to take a pee break, I plan it. Okay, I'm going to take a pee break at so and so time. People have different endurance levels, so I can do Lagos to Benin without getting tired or needing to. I'll probably pee just before Benin. Some people need to stop every 100 kilometers because their mind starts wandering. So if you are those type of people that you forget where you are, your mind starts wandering, you need to stop moving. But what the stop does is that it resets your head. So it's like you're starting afresh. So if you are the wandering type or your endurance, you are just starting, stop off. Taking pictures can be dangerous when you're alone. People are wondering, why is that? You have to go off the road. You have to park your bike well. You have to assess your environment, and then you take the picture. And then there's another system. Maybe you see something that is so fantastic. I've turned back more than once to take a picture. And you need to now say, you have to take that decision very fast, turn back, take your picture and go. And when you are taking the picture, don't get carried away by the picture taking. I'm looking for a particular picture that I went back to take. Don't be so carried away by the picture taking that you forget your environment. So you have to be aware of your environment when you are taking the picture. So I rode past this sign. I'm sure you guys are seeing the sign. And I was in a hurry. So when I blew past it, I said, Ian, this might be a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yes, to take this picture. So I just came back and stopped and took a picture. I mean, I'm alone. I don't have to explain to anybody. So I just needed to take permission from myself to say, you can afford the 5 minutes. But if you notice, I didn't park my bike on the road. So my bike is not on the road. I've gone off the road very well. I'm by the signboard. And where I'm standing to take the picture, I'm off the road. Nothing pains me more than bikers standing on the road, 5 of them or 1 of them, and taking pictures and generally behaving as if they own the road. Fine, we own the road. But the truck that is going to hit you will now become the new owner of the road. So yes, please take your pictures. Just be careful as you are taking them. Be aware of your environment. I don't want to hear that you were taking pictures and somebody tapped you from behind and said, what are you doing here? You know, that is unacceptable. We had one of our guys back in, I think, 2003 or something. He was taking pictures around Abuja and they picked him up and we had to free him at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. because he wasn't situationally aware. So you have to be careful. You have to sense people's body language, even though you are taking pictures. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there's a question here. It says, have you ever had to use a carnet de passage on one of your trips outside of West Africa? Could you touch a bit on that if you have?
No, because carnet de passage is a temporary importation permit. The only place that we had to pay for temporary importation was Cameroon, and we didn't even need the carnet because I was using a Nigerian passport, and we have reciprocal arrangement with almost everybody in Africa. If you are a Nigerian national, you most likely don't need a carnet in West and Central Africa. So I've not had to use it. So most people that use it, if you check, their bikes were probably not registered in a West African country, or they're using a passport that didn't come from here for West African. Then in Europe, you don't need a carnet de passage. You just need insurance. The most important part for what I have noticed might be different for other people is insurance was more important than some of those other things. But there are some countries that need that. So I think there are some countries, I know Egypt is one of them. I'm not sure about Syria. Their homes may be able to tell us. Egypt needs it and one other place, because I was going to ride past there and somebody said, and I check all the documentation, you must have your carnet with you. Don't even think you'll be able to
I think
enter
South
the
Africa.
country without it. Where? South Africa needs it. Okay, I'm not sure about that. So I've not experienced that.
Okay, another question here. Flagel, I'll get back to you. What is the recommended speed for a solo ride?
Ride at the speed that you are comfortable with. So, okay, one of the people has answered the question, so he will know what I'm talking about. When I'm in a group ride, once I'm riding in front and I have people behind me, I find out that I can't look at them, manage what they're doing, look at the front, look at the sides, do everything, and go above 110 or 120. So if I'm the ride leader, I will not go above 120 in a group ride. If I'm on a solo ride, I can do 110 kilometers from here to Thy Kingdom Come. I won't get bored. I won't get tired. I won't feel that it's slow. Because that is the speed that I can process all the things that I need to process. What is going on around me? What is that truck doing? Why is that car behind me? It's been a bad. What's going on? Why is the wall like this? When are we going to have camaraderie stability? What's going on around me? So that is my comfortable speed. Some people have better processing power than me. So they need far more, they can do a higher speed on a group ride for long distance or on a solo ride on long distances and still do this. So again, it depends on you. So for me, that 110, 120 is the maximum that I go to when I'm alone. On a long ride, a private ride, I can do whatever that I want to do. Or maybe I'm just going to Abuja for pleasure 2 days and I've agreed that I'm going to blow out the carbon. The speeds will be different, which I don't want to discuss here.
Fly Girl, please unmute yourself and ask your question. We still have some time.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Joanne. Good to see you. Master, as always, a pleasure, my brother.
Thank you.
Quick question. What do you advise to riders who want to go on a solo ride? Let's take, for example, within country. But you know, there are books that tell you about out of country travel, things to do, as much as you've covered, you know, always get as much information. But what do you tell those that want to go on solo rides within country? How do they get access to information? Like, how well do you know that this route is viable or accessible at this particular point in time versus another route? What source of information for bikers who want to go on a solo ride?
Excellent. Fly Girl, somebody just asked a question I want to answer. Do national speed limits matter? They matter. I paid €100 fine in Morocco because I was doing 2 kilometers above the limit in the desert. So they will catch you and they will make you pay. In France, if you speed too much, they will add the money to your toll, depending on which part of France you are or what the rule is, and you pay. So back to your question, is that you have to take responsibility for your planning. So no matter what you read in the books and everything, which you've alluded to by saying, what should they do, is where are you going? What are the stops along the way? And then what are the alternatives? So we zoom in too much to where we are going. So today I'm going to go from here to Lome. So, and I'm taking the back route. What are the other possible stops? If they hold me at the border and I can't cross on time, will I sleep at the border? Is there a village close to the border that I'm going to sleep at? If you didn't do all that, you get to the border and you start panicking. So when we say do your route planning, the route planning includes knowing the towns around the route, not zooming in on just your destination. So know your route. Number 2 is more of know thyself. What can you do on your bike? You know, a lot of us says, oh, we can do this, we can do that. And, you know, when they were talking about maintenance, there's some things that you've seen people do. You've never actually done it and they look very simple. You don't you find out that it's that's at your level. So what are you going to be able to do? So know what you can do that you have to give to somebody else. So your tire goes down and you are close to a place. Do you get to the next place that they're going to fix the tire, or you're going to fix it yourself? Is there somebody else who has the expertise to fix your tire, even though you have all the tools? Give it to the person to fix and monitor it. So when you know your skill level and everything. Number 3, don't overestimate your riding ability. I'm going to do 500 kilometers because that's what everybody is saying. Have you done 500 kilometers back to back, back to back, back to back? It's not as straightforward as they say. And the person telling you, okay, I'm telling you that I did 500 kilometers, 500 kilometers, 500. I might conveniently forget the fact that I slept one of the days I took off and slept the whole day. That is not part of the narrative when I'm telling you. All you're hearing from me is that I was doing 500 kilometers back to back. So modify it to fit you. I'm going to start with 200 kilometers and I will take it to 300 when it gets to them. So you were talking about in-country. If you plan your in-country trips well also, you will not have this. Nigeria is a very big place. So if I'm riding from Ibadan to Gombe, for most people, it's going to be more than a day's trip. So the fact that other people have done it in a day doesn't mean you should plan for a day. What are your possible stops? If you are doing it in the rainy season and Lokoja is flooded, do you know the alternative route? Where will you sleep and all the other things? Are you hearing the audio now? Somebody said they couldn't hear the audio.
We can hear you clearly. We can hear you clearly.
Okay. Okay. Somebody put on the chat that they were not hearing. So this is an example. My front tire went down and I was conveniently close to somebody who could fix it. So I just trundled the bike to the place. And then I was supervising the changing of the tire, the tube and everything. I don't have anything to prove that I can change tires when there's somebody who can do it, and I'll supervise it and I'll have the energy to ride to where I want to go to. So those are the type of things that you need to be flexible and be able to handle.
Okay, Master, please tell us, what has been your greatest and your worst moment in your adventures? Best moment, worst moment in your adventures. You know, those moments when you say, I beg, who sent me?
I think the worst moments I have are in group rides when, like, I was part of a group ride. I listened to the group ride, the maintenance, the beginning one, and I had a lot. We're coming from Abuja, going to Port Harcourt in the rainy season, and we met a bike who joined us on the road, and then we got to Enugu, and the bike had a problem that took us 3 hours to fix. But we quickly sent all the people using glasses. People cannot see well in the night. All those people, we told them to go ahead, and people that were new, then they called people, whatever. And when they fixed the bike, the person took off. We thought he was going to test the bike. And after 20 minutes, we realized the person wasn't coming back. So we now made arrangement and we went. And then it started raining from before Mohia, from Okigwe all the way to Port Harcourt. So we got to Port Harcourt at 3 a.m. People entered potholes. I thought people were going to, because any crash at that time could have led to a fatality. So that was the lowest point I had in riding. And it changed a lot of things that I now did afterwards. So for example, if I see you and you want to join the group, no, you can't join the group unless you have a good reason. And we cut off, we have sleeping points and all the other things, which I won't go into because it was covered in the group ride. The best moment is anytime I finish the ride and I come back in one piece, oh, I'm still alive. So I'm still here. Ha. Enemies did not succeed this time. I still have my head on my body. So those are the good moments. But being on a motorcycle is always a good moment. So there's so many things that you can do that regular people cannot. That's what I have to say about that.
Okay. Mario has this to say. He says he doesn't know if hydration and emergency pit stops for poo-poo where the pit stop was not planned. How do you handle that?
The beauty of solo is that it's not an emergency stop. You don't have to take permission from anybody. You just stop. And then, hydration is so critical that in almost every picture I post, if I'm doing a long distance ride, you always see a bottle of water. So this bottle of water is not my main source of water. I have another one. Then I have a camel bag. I don't play with water because you might, you'll be dehydrated without knowing that you are dehydrated. So I always drink as much as I can. I don't overdrink, but drinking is very important. So remember that, let me repeat it again, on a solo ride, there's no, you determine your pace. You can stop. You can even sleep. I mean, I did a ride. I didn't know that I was falling sick and I started seeing vision. So I was in Kogi State, someplace in Kogi State. And I was so sure I was in Ibadan. And I even knew the street I was in Ibadan. I was hallucinating a street in Ibadan. And I said, something is wrong. I have to stop. So I stopped in a filling station, a gas station, filled my tank, moved to the side, and then put my leg on the, chain my helmet and everything. And then there was a beggar who was begging. So I told him, can I use your carton? Put the carton on the ground and slept off. I took a Red Bull combination with the coffee I had left, took that one, and then I slept off for 30 minutes and woke up the hallucination has gone, and I was able to get to Abuja. It was the next day I realized that I was sick, and that was like a fever that was getting to my head. If you're in a group, you can't do that. You keep quiet and continue riding, and then you fall on the road and people will be wondering what happened. So you don't have to take permission from anybody. You feel like sleeping at 1 p.m., stop the thing in a village and sleep. You feel like doing number 3, you stop. You see a beautiful man, if you're a girl, you stop and ask the man, I'm going to Abuja, but I can stop in this village. You know, if you can talk to me, I will talk to you, but you don't need permission.
Okay. Now, this is I think we just finished the fasting and we're now in Ramadan. Do you have any tips for riders during fasting period? Who should ride, who shouldn't ride during fasting period?
Okay,
What is that?
so like I said, I normally start my ride with either very light drink, or I ride fasted till around 12. So again, can you do other things that will make you to lose water, that needs endurance, that are there other things that you've done successfully while you're fasting? If they're close and equivalent to riding a motorcycle, okay. I have a friend that we ride in bicycles in the morning at around 4, and he will ride till 6. And if he misses the, taking his morning, he just survives for the whole day. There are people that if they miss that, they will go to the hospital. I mean, they will literally have to go to the hospital for drip, and they're not doing any physical thing. So what can your body handle, and what have you done? And then ask yourself, must you do it? Are they going to give me a medal when I'm dead from fainting while I'm riding in a fasted state? Have to know yourself and what you are capable of. Don't do what others have done. That is what I was saying.
Okay. Somebody has a question. He says, has insurance ever served you on solo rides? That is, when you're riding, do you take out an insurance for yourself, your bike, and all that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I always ride a bike that is fully insured, and if I'm so within Nigeria, I have an insurance that covers me health everywhere in Nigeria. If I'm going out of Nigeria and I'm going to be exposed, so I look for insurance that will cover me for what I'm doing. And people now said, "Oh, supposing this happens or it doesn't happen." You need insurance because it makes you sleep better. So you don't have to worry about what if this happens. So I always tell people, if you are riding without insurance, even in Nigeria, and something happens, who is going to take care of it? And you don't know the extent of the injury. We do not have, people depend so much on gear and helmet and other things. When you hit the ground, you hit the ground. You do not, it's a chaotic thing. You can't know what will happen next. I mean, well, we know the worst that can happen is that you're going to die. So that is it. But you don't know whether you're going to break your hand. You can have the best kit and then you still break your elbow and then it shatters and then you need surgery. So at least have the insurance to the best of your ability. That's what I would say.
Okay, Zen, you have a question? Unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. We have about just a few minutes to go. Zen?
I don't think Zen has audio, so.
Oh, okay. There's a question here. It says, why is it that group rides of more than 2 riders tend not to make it past Africa? And it appears that this has only worked mostly more with solo rides out, through and across African continental borders, or past 5 borders away from originating country. Why is that?
Well, I can't answer that question directly, but what I will say is that because the longer you travel, the more complicated things are. So, I mean, this is a ride to Plateau State. We left very early, and then we had to wait for 1 hour somewhere in Ughelli for somebody. People had flat tire, and then they had to borrow kits from other people. Somebody had a tire that he bought secondhand, and he found out that the person he bought it for secondhand actually bought the tire originally secondhand. So when you add all these ingredients to the soup, I mean, our Nigerian soup likes complication, but for riding, you need to be very focused. So rather than answer that question, let me tell you what you need to do if you are riding in a group outside Nigeria. People that think alike, people that respect the rules, people that can subsume their ego and allow the ride leader to take the decision. So when you have all those things, any X number of people can go. But remember, as you are adding one person, so if there are two people, the complication is this. When you add the third person, the complication is, it becomes more complicated. I think, is it order of magnitude, more than 3 orders of magnitude. By the time you add the fourth person, the amount of things that can go wrong is more than quadruple. It's probably 10 or 20 times. There's an nth order. So we've done trips of 15 people, West Africa, and we were keeping to exact timing. When we say we are leaving at 6, we are leaving at 6. If you are not ready, you meet us up. But take our WhatsApp group. Somebody will misbehave. The admin cannot remove the person because they want to contact the person first. Maybe somebody took the phone. Remove the person. If the person wants to come back, come back. So if you don't have a right leader that can take those harsh decisions and risk people saying you are a bad person, then your right is going to fall down. So it's not just the members of the group that makes the right to work or not. The right leader has to say, this is what happens, and they will enforce it. When you come back, you can talk to the person or you cannot talk to the person. Hey, sorry, the other riders. Or you go solo when they don't talk to you again. All right.
All right. Do you have any final words for us? Because we've practically run out of time.
Okay, guys. So I've not been riding so much again, but I'm still going to say this is that I see people riding Lagos and other places, and we should respect other road users. We want other road users to respect us, but I see a lot of disrespect to other road users. Maybe I didn't notice these things so much when I was only riding. I noticed some of them, but now I see people riding, and I'm wondering, why is he doing that? You are, when you do something wrong on a bike, you are casting the blame or whatever happens on the whole biking community, because every bike is the same. So please, let's respect other road users if we want them to respect us. Thank you very much.
Okay, please don't go yet. There's Tefa Danjuma that has a question. Tefa Danjuma, can you unmute yourself and ask your question quickly? We've run out of time.
Yes, good evening. I sent the question into the chat group and it wasn't responded to that, so I had to raise my hands for it.
Okay, go ahead, ask your question.
Yes, I said, can you please recommend some of these insurance companies to us? Because there was a time
the banking community, there is an insurance company that handles insurance for bikers in Nigeria. Reach out to Nengi, he'll give you the details.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. 837-433-75812. Can you go ahead and ask your question? There's no name, just a number.
Good evening. My name is Afso. These are all things I need to have for myself when going on a solo ride to be safe. I'm not talking about being a lady, but how to be safe on the road as a solo rider, because I had a bad experience on my way to Oshun one time. So I need you to give us things we can have to keep us safe on the road.
Can you be a little more specific? Your
Okay,
question
that's what I was going to ask. So when you say safe,
broad.
Is it safe on a bike or self-defense?
Safe on a bike and self-defense.
Okay, so self-defense, you have the biggest weapon available to mankind. You have a fast rocket that can outrun anything. So if you think the situation is bad, when I was talking to their homes, when he was talking about taking pictures, I said, if you are stopping to take a picture and you are so engrossed in the picture taking that somebody comes up to you and taps you on the shoulder, something is wrong. So you have to have, the number one tool you have is situational awareness. For example, one of my friends will never stop when he sees students. So when they ask him why, I say one person can just say, maybe we push that bike and see how you go down. And 50 people will come and push your bike. There's nothing you can do. So situational awareness will lead you not to stop where you can run into problem. When the problem happens, your number one way of fighting is to run away. Climb your bike, tell the people that I'm going to deal with you. I will show you what is happening. While they're waiting for you to show you, right off. And you could have left something on the ground that is not of value and everything. If the situation now progresses beyond that, then it's no more a biker issue. It's now, how do you handle conflict? So you have to bring up your conflict resolution saying things. Don't think of yourself as a biker again. Think of yourself, I'm in this terrible trouble. These people have surrounded me, or I've entered a situation that I didn't know that was the situation. What do I do to rescue myself and come out? And sometimes humility, once you have number, humility now becomes it. So talks hold you, and they say you must bring your rider's card in a kitty of all places. You are not going to leave this place. Of course, you start with screaming and everything. Then at the point, you notice that there are 7 people, and these people have another plan. Is an argument going to help you? Bringing out the phone, is it going to help you? What you want to do is to leave that place as fast as possible. Think on the moment how you can ride your bike out of that place. And when it deteriorates past that, maybe the bike has to be sacrificed so that you can come back to beat them, bring that major general to beat them. Your safety is number 1. So it's how to much right.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Somebody says you can carry your taser, your pepper spray, and all that. But like I say, if you carry those things, make sure you know how to use them.
And sorry, right. You have to remember that drug addicts and people that take a lot of gogoro and some other things, some of them are resistant to pepper spray.
Oh, wow.
Just remember that people who have been on drugs for long, you can spray them in the face and they'll shake their head and still come after you. So it's not a security meeting, but just remember that. But let's go on.
Does that answer your question, Aso? Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. I think we've come to the end of today's program. Let us, yes, it's 7 minutes past the hour. So we've come to the end of today's program. Tomorrow is another day and another person will be taking over. We thank you very much, Ian, for the exposés, for your experience, sharing your experience with us and telling us what to do, solo rides and all that. For those of us who like to just get on our bikes and just go, now you have tips on what to do and what not to do. For those who like to carry pillions on solo rides, I did not mention anybody's name. Those who like to balance their ballast, now you know what to do. You now know the difference between pillion and solo rides. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And we hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic will be riding with the right mindset, mental health, fatigue, substance intake, etc. So please, let's have a date tomorrow for another exciting period in the Biker Safety Week. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. God bless you all.
Well done, guys. Thank you so much.
Well done. Good night.
Thank you.